Hey everyone, Dr. Nicole here. I'm here with Carolina, and we're super excited to be piggybacking off of some of our previous videos. So we had some questions that were submitted in reference to everything from pregnancy to prenatals to getting pregnant, and we want to dig in and talk a little bit more about that to provide you with some really good information. So we're just gonna take it from there.
For it. I did get a lot of questions on my Instagram because I made a post, a little live thing. So I'm gonna be based on that, and then if you think of something else that it would be good to mention,
yeah, sure,
go from it. So it's gonna be a little talk here. Okay, so one of the things that we had a video when we talked about was prenatals. There's a lot out there over the counter. A lot of people don't even know what to choose. I personally tried a few over the counter when I first started to try to get pregnant, and I actually had really bad reactions from it. It would make me sick or give me a headache, which I'd never had a headache. So, and then my doctor prescribed one, and talking to Dr. Nicole, she told me that I should be taking other things on top of that. So anyways, question, I'm trying to put together one question regarding that. How do I know if the prenatal that my doctor prescribed is the right choice for me?
So, okay.
without saying bad things about doctor, not doing this here.
It's more so one of the things you need to understand about, it depends on the doctor. So if your medical doctor had only 2 to 3 hours of nutrition in their training. So when it comes to understanding prenatals are nutrition. So it's not their zone of excellence, which is fine, but one thing that you want to know is that whatever is being recommended, you can find anything in the world of Google University nowadays, but you can look up the ingredients in anything that you're being recommended. And again, if that's over the counter or if it's prescription. But one of the things that I commonly find in the prescription-based prenatals is that there is different types of additives. There are food dyes, there are traces of heavy metals. Aluminum is one of the biggest ones that I find. And in addition, there is usually going to be other types of preservatives that are not necessarily things that you want to be putting into your body when you're pregnant. So yes, maybe the iron and the B vitamins and the other nutrients are there, but there are some other things.
Else, they're there as well.
Exactly. But I think one of the biggest things to take away about it is that if you have blood work that is a little bit more expansive than just the blood work you're doing with your OBGYN, so maybe if you're working with a doula group or you're working with someone who is being an adjunct physician to your regular care, they could do blood work on you that will give you a little bit more information on what is your body missing. Because I know for you...
Yeah, for instance, we did that.
And for her, she actually needed more iron than what is recommended for the average person who is pregnant. And that's just based off of her body. So it's important for you to know, okay, I need the iron, but you can dose it properly to make sure that you are getting a sufficient amount and then the baby is getting a sufficient amount. And these are all simple things you can do through a blood test just to get a baseline to know, okay, what are the key factors that I need? And like, do I need to take something separately? Like as an example, you can easily take a prenatal that's all in one capsule, but for you, you need to take iron separately in addition to get the adequate dose.
Right. So I started to take my prenatals, and then because like I said, like work with somebody else, integrative wellness group. That's who I'm working up, on top of my OB. I love them. I love my OB. Have nothing to complain about. But she, again, like she did this testing, like the blood work, and it was crazy. And I would never think. And iron is such an important thing right now, mainly because the baby's sucking all the iron out. But she said I was actually on negative, right? Like even before.
Yeah, so her iron was definitely low, and it might be low because you didn't get adequate amounts from the previous pregnancy. But overall, a lot of the nutrients in the first few weeks of your pregnancy, that is when your baby is like gobbling up all of them. And also to folate. And I think this is actually really important to touch on. folate and folic acid are
Yeah.
not the same thing, not at all. And you actually want to gravitate towards folate and not folic acid, because the folic acid, you take the risk of not being able to absorb it. But also when you're dealing with folate, in the first 6 weeks of your pregnancy is when the brain and the spinal cord is being developed. And folate is one of the primary nutrients that is necessary for that development. So making sure you're getting folate and not folic acid through either your combination prenatal or taking it separately is so important. So that's definitely a really, really good factor to keep in mind, is not all prenatals are created equal. And definitely use the power of the internet to look up the ingredients to know you're not getting exposed to anything that you wouldn't traditionally want to put into your body.
Mm-hmm. So answering the question, how do I know? I guess you don't know until you do your research, and maybe, you know, if you're not sure, just look for help, you know, besides your OB. I don't know if you can ask that to your OB, but I would say, like, you know, parallel, just maybe try to work with somebody else. So you can always get in touch with these guys. Anything else? I think we're good.
No, I think it's just what you said is, unfortunately in this day and age, you do have to be somewhat of your own advocate. Like, you have to do a little bit of research on your own, because I'm not going to say that I know everything, but not every doctor is going to know everything. And especially medical doctors really shine. Like, do not come to me in labor. That's not my zone of excellence. But my zone of excellence is being able to keep your body super healthy during and after your pregnancy. So we have different zones of genius, and you're not going to get everything in one place, unfortunately. So that's definitely key to just keep in mind, is everybody has a different zone of excellence.
Yeah. Just think about it. Question number 2, and not only one person asked that, and I went through that too. After how long trying to conceive should I look for a doctor's help?
For what?
Trying to conceive, like if you're not trying to get pregnant.
Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying.
So if you're trying to get pregnant and it's not working, when should you start, like,
looking for fertility specialists?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to try to be really quick. Frank and I, again, years ago, 5-6 years ago, when we started, I went to my regular OB. She's like, yeah, because I used to take, to not get pregnant. Oh my God, what's the pill?
Birth control.
Birth control.
This is very improv.
Seriously. I used to take birth control. Little I know that I probably wouldn't have needed, because we were not going to get pregnant anyways, and I didn't need all the hormone in my body. Anyways, skipping that. So I was taking birth control for a long time, and then she's like, well, you know, sometimes it take a long time to get out of the system, which I don't think it happens nowadays anyways. But, so give it...
Remind me, how long were you on it?
So I actually started taking because I had micropolycystic ovaries. So that was, oh my gosh, I took for over 10 years.
Okay.
Before.
And I can elaborate a little bit more on that too.
Okay. So that long, and then she said, oh, come here after 6 months to start, because I went to talk to her and like ask what I should do. She's like, oh, you know, stop taking and keep, you know, start trying. I was like, okay, sounds simple. After 6 months I went back. She's like, well, give it another 6 months. So for me, it was literally like a year of trying, and I didn't even know what the heck was going on. So
yeah.
I don't know what your doctors are saying, but what do you think?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is, one of the biggest reasons for infertility is not because it's genetic, it's not because you're doomed, it's because there's something off. There's something off in your body. Sometimes it's literally as simple as a deficiency, because again, we talked about the baby needing iron and all these things. So if you're crazy deficient in all of those things that your baby needs, that might be why your body's like, no, not until you replenish this am I going to allow you to be pregnant. So that can be as simple as that. And then you could be really out of balance hormonally because of something like birth control or some other type of medication that you had to take for other reasons. And then there's the biggest thing that I personally see is infectious and toxic burden. And I don't want that to sound super overwhelming to people, but we're exposed to things on a day-to-day basis. We get exposed to different types of chemicals just from drinking out of plastic water bottles. We get exposed to things from the lotions and the makeups that we use. And you're not going to know this information unless like you start digging into it, or somebody maybe, you know, plants that in your head to start researching. But there's things that we all do on a day-to-day basis that contributes to us getting exposed to things that our body's like, ooh, what is this? This isn't good. And then we all have been sick. We've all had colds and viruses, and some of us have had more extreme scenarios when we were kids. Maybe like a lot of strep throat, or we had tons of sinus infections, or we had a lot of upper respiratory, or a lot of urinary tract infections. So the misconception is that when you have these different things, even childhood, teenager, that you get better and the problem is gone. But you can have some of these different things that linger and lurk in the background. And like, let's use strep as an example. So you have strep throat. Everybody knows when they have strep throat because you feel absolutely terrible and you have a fever and everything else. But there are so many people that still have the strep that's in their lymph nodes. And what I see later down the line is maybe they have a thyroid condition, because thyroid's right here. Or they're having a lot of trouble swallowing. Or they have a lot of neck pain. Or they have migraines because all the gunk in here is not allowing blood flow to get in and out of the head.
Wow.
So this is what's important, is if you are someone who's not getting pregnant, but you have maybe bad sleep, or you have migraines, or you have IBS, and you have these things that have been deemed normal or been deemed genetic or deemed to run in your family, those are the things that you need to explore the core root, because those are the things that might be not allowing you to get pregnant, because your immune system is under stress. Your immune system, if it's under stress, that is not an ideal environment for a baby, because if you put a baby in an environment where the immune system is stressed, then you take the risk of the immune system attacking the baby. So these are all things that people aren't talking about. They're not really understanding that the body, when it's stressed or it's in dysfunction, or maybe you are overly emotionally stressed, like all of that is not an ideal environment for a pregnancy.
So even if you do get pregnant, it's still not ideal. So you should maybe look into that stuff.
Yeah, because what happens too is that, and again, all of these things are so normal because I have this conversation on a day-to-day basis. Like, then you get pregnant and you feel terrible because you do the fertility treatment, and then you feel really bad. Like, you're like, oh my God, I'm throwing up and I'm so sick and I am having headaches and I am on bed rest, and you're having all those things, and it's because your body wasn't ready. But then secondarily, maybe that was all smooth, and then you have the baby and all of a sudden the baby's really colic. And the baby's crying all the time, and the baby's spitting up, and you're constantly back and forth to the doctor, ear infections, this, that. So you have to understand that there's a snowball effect that happens because of the environment that the baby was in. So before going and just being like, fertility is the problem, maybe digging a little bit deeper and working with an integrative functional medicine type physician will actually give you clarity on what's going on in your body, because then not only will you feel better and all those migraines and fatigue and all that stuff goes away, but now you actually have this like beautiful, amazing, like smooth pregnancy that you're like, this is the way it should have been, that I can still work out and I can still, you know, go out and socialize, and I can do those things while I'm pregnant because I feel good.
That's how it was with my first pregnancy, for sure. But I saw these guys too. So I guess like maybe don't even think about like waiting until it's not working, but maybe when you start thinking about having a baby, like going back to the question, get your body checked, see if you're all good, and then I don't know, I guess if it doesn't happen or if nothing finds out, and then you start.
There's always a reason.
I know.
There's always a reason, trust me. You know, I do this all the time, and there are so many women that I work with that had a lot of trouble like conceiving, or they had a lot of miscarriages, and there's always a reason. There is always a reason why that happened. And like the reason why I do this, and the reason why I'm so excited about doing this with you, is I am so tired of hearing women feel so like shamed and guilty about like not being able to do the one thing that we're supposed to do. Women, we're supposed to do so much more, by the way. Way more. But you know, there's a lot of women that they always just dreamed of having a baby and being pregnant and having a family, and like there is a major shame factor that happens when they feel like their body can't deliver that. And there's always a reason, and it's just a matter of working with the right people to figure out like what is the cause. So it's not that like infertility wasn't really a thing until what, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, for sure.
And now it's just getting worse. So there's definitely a lot of factors in our environment that nobody's talking about that are working against us.
So how long should you wait? Don't wait. Just get checked
Just
before.
get checked.
So you're like, you know, don't get all stressed out. Yeah, trust me, it's very stressful. And that the stress that it adds to relationship, it doesn't help with having a baby either.
Yeah.
Next question. Can I improve my chances of having natural birth, like instead of like a C-section? Like when you're pregnant, I guess when you're pregnant, can I improve my chance of having natural birth?
Yeah, of course. So obviously C-sections happen for a lot of different reasons nowadays. I'm gonna go right to this one specific thing that I think is really important for people to know. So Dr. Kyle has worked with Carolina, and he is like a world of knowledge when it comes to everything pregnancy related. But he has done his due diligence to research a lot of statistics, and one of the things that you need to look at is the rate of C-section in the hospital that you choose. Because I hate to say it, but hospitals are on a time schedule. And if you're taking too long to progress, they are going to induce you, which hopefully with the induction that you're going to go into labor. But if you don't, they'll induce you again, and then they'll do a C-section. Because time is money. And I hate to say it that way, but it's reality.
That's what I went through.
Yeah.
I totally feel like that.
Yeah, so you do have to look at the rate of C-section in a hospital. If you're going into a hospital that it's like 60-70% is the rate of C-section, like, and you don't want to have C-section, don't go there. Like it's that. That's a really, really, really important, because that's the default mechanism.
And also your doctors, right? Like how they feel about it too.
You know, and it's hard because I know that a lot of doctors, like you say, I know, absolutely, I want to be natural, I want to do all these things, and those doctors, once they get into, like you might be working with them in a private practice, but once they get into that hospital,
it's like
they don't have say. It's 100%. It's the hospital's rules. Like they don't have the ability to make those calls anymore. So yes, hospitals are for-profit businesses. It's just the way that it is. So outside of that, like when we talk about emergency C-section, yes, there are different things that are the cause of that you can definitely prevent. So one of them, the biggest thing, is the position of the baby, because usually C-section is going to be because the baby is flipped, breech, cord wrapped around the neck, whatever the case may be. So with that being said, there is a very, very specific technique that Dr. Kyle actually does as a chiropractor called Webster technique. And he usually will work with women throughout the duration of their pregnancy, and he'll use something called cranial sacral therapy. I don't want to say chiropractic, because chiropractic as you're pregnant is not what people think. It's very like gentle to make sure the pelvis stays in alignment. And then the Webster technique actually utilizes manipulation of the ligaments that are in the pelvis, like in the groin area, and you can work with those ligaments to make sure the baby is positioned properly. And Webster is known because if you come in breech presentation before obviously labor starts, the Webster technique can flip the baby.
Wow.
So that's really...
But it's not like the one that they go in.
No.
Baby. Because I mean, it's personal. I don't like to... But I know somebody, you know, that has a breech baby, and she's amazing. You know who you are. But they were talking about like going in with their hand, you know, like manually flip the baby. And I was like, this sounds like awful.
Barbaric.
Yeah, and then she's like, yeah, there are chances that I'm gonna go into labor because it's so much that they go. It's like so invasive. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, do not go for that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, the Webster technique is literally just a very strategic technique that is non-invasive, and it utilizes the round ligament in order to shift the positioning of the baby. So you're using the activation of the ligament, but you're also activating the nerves of the pelvic bowl. So it's a little bit neurological and it's a little bit physical, and it allows the baby to move naturally on its own to prevent, obviously, the C-section later.
So if you're pregnant, seriously, like, I know it's such a touchy subject to talk about, because we're all like, I mean, I don't everybody, but most of the people that I talk to would like to go natural instead of having a C-section, because it is a major surgery, you know, and when you don't think you can go through that. And again, I feel like nowadays, because so many people go through C-section, there are all the people like, oh no, it's fine, you know. And even when I did it, like, because my husband's mom did it and my mom did it, and they were like, oh, you're gonna go, you know, you're gonna go C-section. So I was like, seriously, it was so stressful.
Well, one of the interesting things, so
like, it's not genetically.
No, I know. But it becomes the normal, and it's very much the normal now. But interesting, like, after the fact. So my husband is Dr. Nick. He works with us here at Integrated Wellness Group too. And one of the things that he has been trained in is scar release. Because scars can bind, with scar tissue, it can bind in this area, like it can bind your bowels, it can bind like different organs, and also there's a lot of like energy changes that can happen with scars, especially in like a traumatic event. So he will analyze women, like when he's doing his testing, to see like if he needs to do scar release. And so many women that come in with different types of gastrointestinal issues or even reproductive issues, maybe cysts, fibroids, polyps, things like that, he ends up finding that he needs to do scar release on their C-section scar.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's like what you're gonna see later. It's not like you're walking around and you're like, oh my God, my scar hurts, but it actually can affect you internally.
That's crazy. See, that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I might need to see him.
She learns something every time we do this.
I love it. That's why I'm here. Okay, next question. What is the best diet to follow in order to conceive, like to get ready to be pregnant?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I guess that's something that it's depending on you, where you are, what you're used to, right? What you're exposed to.
You know, to create a blanketed statement is you need to keep as many toxins out of your diet as possible. And that means like trying to eat foods that are real from the ground, animal protein, etc. I know that that's like a controversy too, but obviously if you're eating organic chicken, if you're eating organic turkey, if you're getting grass-fed, grass-finished beef, something called heritage pork, like those are the clean sources of protein. And then if you're also doing a lot more plant-based and whole foods, but when, you know, I feel like it's changing a little bit, but there are still people that go into this mindset of eating for two.
Oh no.
You're only supposed to increase your caloric intake by like 500 calories.
After the second trimester, right?
Yeah. And you're getting those calories from a really, really good quality source. So you're getting those calories not from like processed
chocolate bars.
Yes. But when it comes to, we hear about certain things, like we hear about like don't eat a lot of fish. And we don't eat a lot of fish because you're not supposed to be eating fish because of toxicity. But we don't apply that to other things. Like there are toxins in the Entenmann's donuts. There are toxins in the, you know, like Doritos. There's toxins in all of that stuff. And it's unfortunate because that's just like deemed our normal food supply. So trying to eat as clean as possible is really, really important. Yeah, have some ice cream. Yeah, have some chocolate occasionally, but it's trying to not like think that you can eat all the things
just because you're pregnant.
Just because you're pregnant.
Actually, you should not eat all those things because you're pregnant, if anything.
Right? But like you said, if you are working with someone and you're getting blood work done, so for her, like with an iron deficiency, I would say, hey, like definitely, I don't know if you normally eat red meat, but eat a little bit more red meat. because that will help you with your iron from a dietary perspective. Or make sure that if you make soup, you make it with like bone broth. So you can tailor the diet depending on what your body needs, for sure.
So yes, there is a better diet in order to conceive. Now, the next question is pretty close to that. It's like, what's the best diet to follow for me and my baby when I'm already pregnant? So I guess the same, right? Yeah,
it's the same concept. And one of the things that I definitely recommend as an adjunct to prenatals is something called chlorella. Chlorella is a type of chlorophyll, so it's a really amazing like cleanser of the body, but it's very, very gentle and very safe while you're pregnant. And the reason being is, unfortunately, even as like conscious and intelligent as you are, and how you're trying to like be really careful while you're pregnant, and maybe you're, you know, you got rid of all your fancy like personal products and makeups because you found out there's chemicals in them, and you're trying to eat really clean. We're all exposed to things all the time, so they have proven at this point that most women that they test, their amniotic fluid still has some level of chemicals in it because of just things that we are exposed to day to day. So the chlorella is amazing at keeping your amniotic fluid really clean and really pure. So it really creates this very, very great environment for the baby. And it's also something, once you have the baby, especially if you're breastfeeding, it cleanses the breast milk.
Write that down.
So yeah,
I get that.
But I will say chlorella is not all created equal. My personal favorite brand is BioPure, just because I know where they source it and it's very, very clean.
Okay. So do you have it here?
I do.
Okay. Shopping after videoing. Just some shopping. They have all sorts of things here too. The other one, can stress keep me from conceiving? I guess
100%.
I guess we already.
Yeah. So stress hormones are hormones. So stress hormones, so think about it this way. If you are in the woods about to fight a tiger or run, aka this is what we call fight or flight, you're in a high stress mode. The interesting thing is your body doesn't know the difference between that really negative email that made you stressed versus fighting a Tyrannosaurus. Genetically, your body does not know the difference. So your body is equipped to deal with a short-term stressor. So you fight the tiger or run, and then that situation is over, or you die.
You die, doomed.
But when we live in this environment that we're getting those negative emails every day, or we're going home to an unsupportive spouse, or we're going to a job that we hate, those are all things that are stressors every day, all day. And if your body is chronically in that state, something is not important at that time. And one of the things that's not important is conceiving. And it's because, think about it, like if it goes back to the genetics of fight or flight, if you're in the woods about to fight a tiger, your body's like, I need to put all my energy to flee this situation. I can't put any energy into reproducing because this is a terrible time to reproduce. So again, the same thing goes for that stress that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. It is very difficult for you to have balanced hormones, sex hormones, when you're overproducing stress hormones.
Anything else that you want to touch on, like that you think it's important regarding to all that we just talked about, like pregnancy and not?
Yeah, I think one of the big things just to take away is to really be conscious of not only the dietary side of it, but also to be really conscious of what we are putting onto our bodies, but also what we're putting onto our baby's body once they are actually born. Because a lot of the big name companies that are, you know, promoted to be very baby friendly, and a lot of these things that we're typically getting at our baby showers, unfortunately sometimes don't always have the best ingredients. It really comes back to being your own advocate, in the sense that you don't know what you don't know, and if you're not necessarily taking a look at the ingredients or even knowing what you're looking for, it could be somewhat confusing. So one of the apps that I absolutely love is called Think Dirty. And Think Dirty is an app that will actually, it's two things. You can type in any of the current products that you're currently using, but also if you take it to the store and now you're starting to look for all these baby products and you're like, I don't know what any of these are. You can actually scan the barcode of the product and it will actually give you a rating system to tell you if it is good or if it has high level of toxicity.
So don't you wish you had that when you did your baby shower? Okay, so I just go and then I look up and then how do they tell you?
It's specifically an app, so it's not on the computer. But Think Dirty, it's free. You don't have to pay for it at all. And that is going to give you a rating system. It's 1 through 10. So 10 is high toxicity and 1 is great. And it also even color codes it to kind of tell you the green is obviously great, and then the yellow is in the middle, and then anything in red is going to be higher level.
Stay away from.
Exactly, exactly. So it's always a learning curve with personal products, because sometimes even what I found is I've used things for a while that I previously looked at and they were great. And then I re-look at them even a year or two later, and then all of a sudden now they're toxic. So know that as well, because they can definitely alter the ingredients over time, because sometimes companies get bought as well. Like I know a lot of my natural deodorant companies, they have been purchased by really big companies, and then unfortunately the ingredients weren't good anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope you guys got a lot from this video. I did. Thank you, Dr. Nicole. Follow them on Instagram. They do have a webinar, right? Do you want to?
Yeah, so we actually do a webinar every Thursday, and the webinar is really geared towards helping people to understand, first of all, more about integrative functional medicine, number 1, and number 2 is why are you maybe not feeling your best, but your symptoms are undiagnosable, or secondarily your labs look good. Because a lot of us go and get blood work and maybe we don't have anything crazy going on, but we're just like, I'm tired and I'm not sleeping well,
don't know what's going on.
We don't know what's going on, and your blood's like, you look good, you look healthy, and you feel really lost. So the webinar is really great at just giving you the bigger picture.
When is that?
About that. So it's Thursdays at 7:30, and we are doing it weekly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have a podcast.
Yes, our podcast is on iTunes. It's also on Podbean, and it is called Integrative Wellness Radio, and I have been recording for about 5 years now.
Wow.
I know it's crazy to think, but it is anything and anything you can think of. So if you have a very specific diagnosis or condition or symptom, if you pretty much like search it,
just look it up,
you'll be able to find something about thyroid, hormones, testosterone, IBS. Like there's information about almost everything in medicine.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So check them out, check my channel, go look for other things here. And I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.